Well, welcome to Tim's Take, and we're back here with Dr. Mark Cogsnell, and we're going to delve deep into some of his research that he's done with breeding walnut and other nut-type trees. So welcome back, Mark.
Thank you.
And walnut is a native crop here in Missouri, a native plant with lots of genetic variability and potential, and it was your job here at the University of Missouri to make some sense in that and to tame that to give us a higher quality nut and maybe even timber.
Right. That's you've got it.
All right. Well, let's quit then.
We're all done.
We're done.
Yeah, I think we're all done now.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah. To start at the beginning, black walnut occurs in Missouri, and it is more plentiful in Missouri than in any other state in North America. It is known for its high quality timber, veneer value. It is also known for its nut meat and nut shell in terms of industrial applications. All from the same, botanically the same tree. And we have so much of it here in Missouri. And we have which I think we all know, a local company down in Southwest Missouri, which is the number one producer of edible nut meats for black walnuts on Earth, as far as I know, as well as the numerous shell products. So that was kind of the beginning, if you will, the lay of the land, if you will, when I first arrived here. My job was to look at the possibility of trying to integrate, I think that's the word to use, the idea of growing black walnuts for their timber, which I actually kind of knew something about from my old days in another job in another place, and also to integrate not only high-quality timber, but also high-quality nuts, edible nuts, on the same stem at the same time.
And is that uncommon to have high on both?
Yes. Yeah, it was strictly a novel opportunity. Okay. And because the value of the timber is so huge, I think historically, without being too over the top on this, black walnut timber, particularly veneer, it has been the dominant number one hardwood tree species, fine hardwood tree species in North America for my entire lifetime, and yours too.
Yeah.
It is reliably very highly prized and highly valued, and also it has
all over the world, and then also this has this nut characteristic, edible nut characteristic that is unique. And when you put the two together, that was the initial direction that I was charged with working on when I first came here. Because nothing tastes like a black walnut.
That's for sure.
It is very unique.
It's not Persian walnut, that's for sure.
Or English walnut.
English walnut. Yeah, if I may, let's clear up for the audience, just to clear up the naming of things. Black walnut. We all know what black walnut is. There's another species. It grows in California. It is native to California. It is also called locally in California black walnut. Is it the same species as ours? Nope. They're two different ones. So California black walnut. I'm sorry, here comes the botanical Latin here. Its name is Juglans, Juglans, Hindsii, Hindsii. That's the California black. And then there's the native one that we're talking about today, Juglans, Juglans, Nigra, Nigra, or Nigra, as they say in Europe. And so...
Which means dark, black.
Dark and black, right, for the color of the wood.
Yes, okay.
And so Persian walnut, Persian, English, Carpathian, 1, 2, 3 different names. Carpathian walnut, Persian walnut, English walnut. They're correctly called Juglans, Juglans, Regia, Regia. It is native to Asia. 3 different common names, 1 botanical entity, 1 species. So confusion. Oh my goodness, there's so much confusion. with common names versus botanical names. So we can move on from there now.
So we're talking about
Niagara.
Niagara. Yes. Yes. All right.
For sure. And so the issue is to try to grow trees that are high value in terms of their timber, but also high value in terms of their nut productivity. Now, I think as we were talking a bit earlier, Tim, the question becomes the plant, a tree, I don't care what tree it is, can produce, it has a finite, I'll use the word budget for a given year that it can use to produce fruit or reproductive seeds, etc., and or timber, wood. And so there's only so much available. Does it produce the wood, or does it produce the nuts? Or does it try to do both? And the more you try to lay onto this tree to try to do everything for all consumers, the harder it is to find individuals that fit those criteria, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so further, when it comes to growing trees for black walnuts now, for timber, how do you manage them in the field? How do you space them in the field? How do you prune them in the field? Versus, say, black walnuts you're going to grow as an orchard crop. How do you space those? How do you prune them? Are the management regimes the same? Nope. They're different. So soon after I arrived on the scene, the challenge of growing trees for timber, I can do that. I know how to do that. But the nut story was a story that no one had, frankly, I don't think anyone had really explored to any extent before here. Myself and a predecessor of mine at the University of Missouri undertook back in the year beginning in 1998. And so I focus more on the nut side and how to do that. Oh my goodness, we could go on and on for a long time. You'll have to guide me on this, Tim.
Well, with timber versus nut,
yes,
it was all said and done, a life of a tree, which is the most valuable? Depends, I guess.
It all depends. Yeah, that's one of the great phrases. I'm not sure in the agronomic world, but I know in the forestry world, the phrase "it all depends" is one that is applicable here. It depends on the landowner's objectives. That's an easy add-on to that "it all depends" phrase.
So just quick and dirty, how would you manage a walnut for timber?
Oh, you'd start with the best possible site, soils-wise, that you possibly could obtain, and then deep, well drained, right? pH 6.5, 7. No rocks. I come from Massachusetts. That's all there are up there are rocks. I mean, truly. You would grow them usually, remembering that you're going to eventually, in a walnut timber plantation, this is not based on just what I say, but based on forestry professionals that I've had pleasure and privilege to know for decades. And they said to me, Mark, how many trees are you going to have per acre at the end of the rotation for black walnut timber trees? I said, per acre? I'm guessing 40. And they said, nope. It's going to be more like 30. So keep in mind, you're going to have this, just as we were talking before we started this session, there's going to be great attrition.
Okay.
I mean, you can plant them, at something like 10 by 10 feet in a planting, or 12 by 12 or something like, there's all kinds of different rubrics to use.
Right.
But keep in mind that, if you plant them at, for example, 8 by 8, I think it's 640 trees per acre. 640 trees, and how many are you going to wind
30?
up with? 30. So there's a lot of attrition that's going to go on. There's a lot of attention that is required. So we can go on and on.
So you're not going to plant at 640 and just leave it?
No.
Or 30 and leave it?
Many people do. So there's always a fine balance between how many do you start with versus how many you're going to wind up with at different stages along this trajectory in terms of to get to the final harvest.
And I imagine at Agroforestry, Center of Agroforestry, you all have guide sheets on this about how to grow black walnut for timber.
We do, or else Missouri Department of Conservation has some good opportunities. If I may put in a plug, there's a group I have been a member of since 1985 or something like that, and it's called the Walnut Council. Maybe you've heard of it,
yes,
maybe not, but it is a great resource on more and more of their online products are becoming available, and walnutcouncil.org. I mean, look it up.
So that's where they can get this information about.
Yeah, a lot of this for timber growing walnuts or other hardwood tree species, oaks, for example. Okay. How to do? What do you need to consider? How to start? How do you define what part of your farm? Let's say it's a 500-acre farm. What is not all 500 acres are going to be suitable? Well, what is suitable? And that's a resource to take advantage of.
Okay. So that's one thing. Now, nut is a little different because you said that the yield on nut, as far as the nut itself, is not very much of the total.
No.
The fruit itself.
Right. So I think we've talked before, about the fruit, the husk, or the other people call it the hull, Hull, that surrounds the nut, which is hard as a rock. And inside that hard as a rock sphere are these little chambers where the edible fraction is, if you will.
It's kind of like a Egyptian tomb. You got to go through all this just to get to the.
It's kind of like a set of a set of Russian dolls. You know, one's a little smaller inside another. But anyway, real quick, you have a fruit on the side of the road in the autumn. Say it's first week of October or something like that, and you pick it up, and you pick up that one and a whole bunch more, and you take them home. And you take the husk off, which is not an easy thing. No. We can talk about that. We don't want to necessarily.
You have very black hands.
Yeah, for 10 days. It's a 10-day thing. Just FYI, and at least it always has been for me. And so you take the husk off, the hull off, the fruit off, the fleshy part, and you have this naked, if you will, bare nut still has some little fraction of the husk attached to it in the little crevices. We use a power washer. Just blow off the husk loose, the husk fraction. Get it bare and clean. And then what do you do with it? You put it in an onion bag, if you will, something, a lot of air movement, and hang them in your garage or your pole barn or whatever. And then you leave them in there for about 5-6 weeks, something like that. And then you can take them out, and then you can crack them to eat them.
Because then with this hull gone,
yep,
it won't stain the fruit anymore.
Correct. Yeah, the hull. If longer you leave it on, to the color of your shirt, for example, is that the dark hull, the fruit, is it going to go into the nut and stain the edible fraction that we all want to eat? And the answer is yes.
Because really, what you like to do is pick them off the tree.
Pick them off the tree,
and that way you get that nice.
Right. Good. Nice in terms of they're more like the color of this tabletop.
Come out, yeah.
And they taste very different, and they taste really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes,
so that's a big difference in taste.
Right. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It's how do you handle, because some people get real excited about the taste of the nut kernels, but it's not inherent. Before you crack them to eat them, these are dried, cleaned nuts. Weigh the nuts. Weigh it on a scale, like a kitchen scale or something. And then you crack it, however you're going to do it, and then you pick out the fraction that you're going to eat. Don't eat them yet. Weigh that fraction and express that fraction versus the total weight of the nut. So for the wild type, from the gutter on the side of the road, how much of that nut can you eat by weight?
Of the nut itself.
The nut. Get the hull. We're not talking about the hulls or anything, husks or anything.
Hull's pretty heavy, maybe 20-30%.
No. The actual amount that you can, from a dried, ready to eat, cracked nut, how much of that weight can you eat? It's about, from the wild type, about 10%.
10%.
Ideally, it's probably like 8 to 12%. We'll call it 10 just for fun. So the material that I've been working with, the collection of germplasm that I started with, what's the average? Is it 10%? Nope. It's about 25%. And it can go all the way up to 40%.
Wow.
Depending upon which tree you pick the nuts from.
So this was just trees that were growing wild that you looked at, found, and
right.
and use that as your breeding program.
You identify the parents to cross, to hybridize, if you will. And so when I first arrived, I knew all of these names. They all have unique cultivar names, and some of them were cultivar names that were first written down in 1888. So the year 1888. And so some of them have been around a long, long, long time. And some of them have, guess what? Some positive traits and some negative traits. What were they first named for? Because they had a high percent kernel. They had a thin shell. And so usually in about 20% range, which is a lot better than 10.
Oh, yeah, double.
So, but the trouble is that most of those individuals that were the named cultivars from the early 1900s, say, they were very poor in terms of their productivity. They had great nuts, beautiful when they produced them, but they take a long time to start to produce whatever crop they're going to start with from early on. They're not real precocious, if that's a word to use. And then they also take, maybe they'll take a year off, meaning they'll produce a big crop in year 1, they'll produce nothing in year 2, they'll produce a big crop in year 3, nothing in year 4. So if you're going to be a grower and you're interested in growing walnuts for nut productivity, can you afford, as you suggested earlier, Tim, can the bank afford to let you take a whole year off? Probably not.
And with the whole orchard, I guess you call that an orchard.
Yep.
Would the whole orchard be that way, or would half of them be? Depends
on which cultivated varieties you start with. Some of them do this on off reality. Some of them will produce maybe. And there's one I'm thinking of that produces 37% kernel, which is a fantastic amount.
Yes.
But it produces on a 12-year-old, 12 to 15-year-old tree, it'll produce less than 100 nuts each year.
Oh.
You can't afford to give that tree space.
Right.
So I would rather go with a 24, 22% kernel that produces something every year. And can you do that? Yes. Can you design an orchard that would contain these different traits, different individuals that respond to mainly productivity on an annual basis? And another thing we talked about earlier, I think, was the reality of living in St. Joseph versus Cape Girardeau. Sometimes the season length can be a big deal. And season length meaning defined by when the female bloom first appears on a tree to the day you can pick the nut off the tree, shake it.
So you're looking for consistency. And something that's 110 days.
110 days is a minimum, 105-ish versus 165 days. One last thing about the harvest. When you harvest, we shake the trees like they shake pecans, for example. But sometimes you have to shake, in some cases, you have to shake these trees more than once. No. You
want one time?
One time only. You don't want to have to go. So I'll call it the intra-tree maturation can be a big deal in some individuals.
Within the tree.
Yeah, within the tree. And so you have to shake them 3 times. If you're a grower, are you interested in other than that, it's a great tree. But if you have to go with the same machinery, visit that same tree 3 times in the autumn when you're so darn busy anyway with harvest, that's not a winner.
Well, if you
those are examples of variation that we have within this collection that we started with, that you can exploit it, if you will, my favorite word. You can tailor your different individuals, different varieties that you're going to put in your new orchard based upon information such as this.
And you start out by crossing parent A with
Yep.
B that has great traits. Traits you get junior, that you look for these traits.
Yep.
But then if junior and junior's offspring are what you like,
Yep.
but then your orchard, they're all grafted from that.
Everything is grafted.
They're
yes.
all clones of
Right.
this cross.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Because you took junior's nuts, they'd be all over the place.
Right. Exactly.
So that's why.
So yeah. So one quick thing, grafted trees in black walnut. In walnuts, I'm here to tell you, based upon grafting trees in greenhouses since I was a very young person, back in the early '60s in Massachusetts, learning how to do that. And grafting black walnuts is exceptionally difficult to reliably get good results year in, year out. It is not as easy as apples. Apples are simple.
Softwood versus a hardwood?
Hardwood.
Yeah.
Dormant season. So,
okay.
And can you root them as a cutting? Like you can a poplar tree, for example? Nope. Can you grow them in tissue culture? Nope. We've tried.
Okay.
Believe me, we've tried.
Maybe yet.
Can
not
you do
yet.
it? Can you do it with Persian walnut, Carpathian in English? Can you grow them in a tissue culture, production system? Sure. Easy, quote unquote, easy. It's a lot easier. It's intractable. The species that we're talking about today, to vegetatively propagate it, unless you do it the old-fashioned way, is to graft the tree. So. That's just a sideline there. But it results in bottlenecks, if you will, in terms of production. We would like to evaluate these trees, and we are finally in the process of taking the juniors, as you mentioned, which is a good way to think of it. We know mom and we know dad, and there's junior, but we want to make multiple copies of junior.
Right.
And grow them all over the state of Missouri to understand what the effect of local site is on productivity. And we've just started to do, I think within the last 3 years, to do that. So because what I know is what I know based upon the populations of juniors in New Franklin, Missouri, which is great. It's right in the middle of the state.
Right.
But I don't know how that same junior would perform in Springfield or Hannibal or
the Ozarks.
St. Louis or the Ozarks.
That's right.
So we have to get a better insight. We have to broaden our, inference space across different geographies, different soils. Right. Because they're so fussy. Yeah. Walnuts is a fussy beast to grow.
Even though they're native.
Because
you're trying to do it, you're trying to get it to do what we want to, not what it wants to.
Yeah, exactly.
So in biology, there's a cost for everything.
Sure.
So if I increase this nut yield to 25 to 30%, it's great. But what did it cost me? Taste?
I wouldn't say taste.
That's good.
I don't think it would be taste. I think it would be just growth rate. In terms of tree. Diameter growth, height growth, diameter growth. Would be as we talked before. There's a budget that any tree has. It only has so much in terms of its resource base to allocate. Does it allocate to diameter growth? Multiple flushes in a year. Sometimes they do that, or they focus it on the seed crop, the flower and the fruit crop. What's the strongest zinc? It's the fruit crop. That's going to be the strongest.
But now, as a kid, I remember picking up wild pecans. Oh, they tasted fantastic. Yep. You had to have a hammer to break up the shells, and again, they'd be like a walnut to go everywhere.
Yeah.
But they're fantastic. Whereas the paper shell now, they're big as my thumb. I don't think they taste as good.
Right. Yeah. It's a different set of germplasm, if you will. I'm not a pecan expert to speak of at all, even though it does have bark on it and it is a tree. But I think for the most part, the trees that the native pecans that are that grow along the Missouri River, north Glasgow area,
Right.
for example. And it even grows up along the Mississippi. You'll find examples of pecans growing even up into Iowa, Keokuk and above. But they're right along the rivers. And so that's that story. But I think you look at that distribution of pecans, and then you contrast that with what grows in Georgia or Texas. It's a different. Pecan is a very diverse, genetically diverse species as well, and it covers a large geography. And the paper shells, the big ones, they come from a different set of lines of germplasm.
That's why the taste is different.
That's why the taste is
Not in
the
the oil
nuts
content.
are big, but the nuts are big, but the oil content, which gives the flavor to our local Missouri local pecans from Glasgow area, as I understand it, the oil content is much higher. It makes the paper bag will right, it's just much more appealing for us to taste versus the great big ones that come from Texas. Say, they're big and they look pretty, but the taste is not necessarily
not the same.
The same.
Whereas your walnuts, you're still retaining most, if not all, of that flavor.
The flavor, I think, again, as I think we chatted about before, it's so dependent upon how the harvest is conducted.
Yes.
And when everything is done right, correctly, I'll say, the result is that you can have just delicious kernels. In contrast, the same tree, if you wait until all the nuts fall to the ground au natural and the husk turns about the color of your shirt, and then you pick them out and you look at the kernels. Are they the color of this microphone, or are they the color of this same tree in the same year? I mean, if you
just
pick
timing
it's timing, right?
And you're telling me also that to get these nut yields up, that you're dwarfing the tree.
Oh,
just because there's not as much to go around, the tree's gonna be smaller.
Right. Yeah. There's some horticultural tricks to potentially try to produce in the breeding program. No matter what organism you're working with, you want to turn the generations over as quick as you can. And so there are a number of little tricks that you can use to potentially speed that along. You want to move the tree from a seedling phase, to a flowering, fruiting phase as quick as you can. And in the case of walnuts, black walnuts, the minimum time that I've been able to get it down to, quote unquote, is about 5 years. So
from seed to
seed. And so that's pretty good.
Yes.
Because au natural, it's about 10 to 15. And that's in the woods in the middle of Boone County somewhere.
Right.
And that's, frankly, probably wishful thinking.
I probably got some 2025.
That are yet to produce anything of any consequence.
Right.
So in the case of, it's another thing is, you can see trees that have nuts underneath them. Okay, when they're young trees, and I think to myself, do I really want to bend over and pick those things up? I mean, one of the metrics that we used was how many years does it take for a tree, seedling origin tree, to get to a point where it produces 100 nuts per tree? Okay, meaning that
worth it.
Good old Mark can actually bend over and pick them up. Okay, it's just kind of a laugh.
Sure.
But it's the minimum is 6, and the maximum is about 12, as I remember. That years.
And what does a mature walnut tree produce? Would you say a good
one?
Well,
how about going back to that example of a big crop and nothing?
Okay.
Big crop and nothing.
Sure.
The big crop. The tree I'm thinking of is, I'm pretty sure I'm correct. It's about 20, I'll say 20-year-old, 22-year-old grafted tree. and the most it ever produced was about 3,500 because I counted them all
In that good year.
in the good year, and the next year it produced maybe 30.
Okay.
And I'm making that number up. It's
Right.
very.
Right.
It wasn't zero, but it wasn't absolute zero, but it was effectively zero. And so, in the next year, it would be like 2,800, and then it would be 50. You know?
But you said, though, that the ones that did that would actually, after 10 years, have produced more nuts than your consistent ones.
Indeed, yes. And so then you get back to the banker.
Yes.
And you say, the banker says, yeah, well, what did you do for me today in terms of this year versus the previous?
And delivering a consistent product to your customers.
Exactly.
So
yes.
that's where that comes into.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of nuance associated with this.
So do you think we'll eventually be able to get a tree that can go both nuts, that 25%, and give us a good log in 50 years when our children want to collect their inheritance?
Well, I think you can find some trees that fit the nut trees now. I'm going to call them
Right.
nut cultivars that have definite. I think we know the word phenotype. What you look at, what you can see. There are certain trees that are very crooked. That's just what it is. And then you have some that are not too bad. They're straight enough, I think. But so to your question, yeah, they have the potential. However, it's something also to consider is, remember, these are grafted trees in an orchard setting, and you're going to shake the trees. When you put that shaker on a stem, and then you have like a 70 horsepower tractor at least, and you turn that PTO on, and you know more about this stuff than I do. The ground shakes.
Yes.
And so this is a tree. And when you take the pads off of the shaker to go to the next tree, look at the stem. What do you have? Did you damage the stem? And in many cases, you do. I mean, it's just a physical reality.
And when it comes to a veneer log, it will show up.
And where's the value on any fine hardwood log? Where is it? It's at the base of the stem.
Where you've been shaking.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, Mark, this has been fascinating, and I know we could talk for hours about this.
This could be dangerous. Couldn't
It could be dangerous. But really, there's a lot of potential for our walnuts to be developed. It's happening already.
Yep.
And if you want to get into it, as far as planting an orchard of them, look for these good quality varieties.
Right.
They give you that high nut yield and that high nut quality and consistency.
Right. Yeah. Real quick, we have, as we mentioned earlier, I believe, the University of Missouri Center for Agroforestry, for whom I worked before I retired from MU. We have a number of things that are online, resources that are pubs that are online now. And you can talk about the one that is the on again, off again, on again, off again. That one's called Emma K, EMMA space K. I don't know who Emma K was.
Okay, I thought that's somebody
but
that
I do know,
worked with you.
But I do know, no, nobody worked with me. But I do know that Emma, that's the one that on, off, on, off, on, off. That's one. The other one that I like, this is based upon trees that grow here in central Missouri. There's one called Hay, Hay. That's a good. To me, that's the one I like the best.
Is that right?
Personally.
More consistency.
Right.
Okay.
And then another one is sparrow, like the bird, sparrow. Those are the ones, sparrow and hay. And this is difficult. It's like when you get into in a room when you try to start introducing people and you forget three people's at the end. And
yes.
And you don't include everybody. And I know I'm not including everybody, but those ones that are the ones that I have found to be positive. There are others, and in these publications that I alluded to, you can the beginning grower, quote unquote, can find insights into which ones are more desirable than others. Now, real quick, we tend to cross, say, sparrow by hay. I made a bunch of them, and the seedlings resulting from the juniors. Are they all behaving the same?
No, because they're heterozygous.
To be sure.
Yeah.
But are some of them, shall we say, better than, however you want to define better, Depends on the trait. Better than Sparrow? Yep. Better than Hay? Yep. What are we going to do with those? The juniors, those juniors. Right now, those are the ones that we are clonally propagating to deploy across Missouri in different plantations to get an understanding of how well they perform in different geographies on different soils.
Which could be a named variety in the next 5 years.
Correct. And so to that end, lastly, and I'll be done here, lastly is that we are exploring for the best, we'll call them juniors again, the best ones that we've come up with thus far, based upon the criteria we were able to develop over time. We are in the process of pursuing what I think we call in them candidate releases.
Sure.
And this would be potentially intellectual property down the road for the University of Missouri. And so we have to make sure that they perform well across the geography before we, they grow great in New Franklin. They're outstanding.
Which is on mint for soil, some of the best there is.
Exactly. But that's the inference space we talked about earlier. It's not as big. It's not big enough. So that's where that's where the program stands.
Perfect. All right, this is such fascinating things. But thanks, Mark, for coming out. And I see you're working during retirement, which is
that's another story. That's another day. That's another day.
That's right. All right.
Good.
All right. Well, this is it for Tim's Take, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.